That is the hardest thing. And governments can't regulate a virtual space. Yeah, because Brazil, you could live in Brazil while I live in the States. He lives all of our countries have different laws and regulations. And so you can't intertwine because then that's a clash of interests for all countries.
So it's
literally the Wild West until either governing body over it becomes a thing or world order.
So the way I see it, the only world government that could technically regulate and would be the only one legal by human rights standards to regulate VR chat is the United Nations.
NATO.
That is the only body that not NATO, the United Nations, because that's literally every country in the world in one room making laws. There are some, yes, but mostly it's a lot of the world in one room making laws and regulations for the entirety of the world of those that are in there. So that's the only way you could technically regulate VR chat is if a world governing body is able to take control of VR chat. But no one's going to do so because guess what? All we have to say is you're infringing our freedom. That's it. And then they'll back off.
And then boom.
No matter how you see it, you're going to be stuck with this Wild West format in VR chat.
I think that what's absolutely bizarre is that there are like literal children that they just have like immediate access to VR.
Yeah.
And I have a child who's like 7 and he plays with my character. But when he's in those like VR chats with like the other kids, all they do is just like yell at each other and like it's like they're cyberbullying each other. It's weird.
Yes, yeah.
And they're
it's
little,
absurd.
like they're not even like teenagers playing like Call of Duty. Like that kind of makes sense. You're like shooting at each other. You're yelling at like your opposing team, but like they're literally yelling at each other about their avatars.
I don't know how old you are. I'm 38, so I've been dreaming of this stuff kind of since I was little. So it's your dream come true. I work at a restaurant, and then when I come home, my lady's still at work, so I choose to do this to unwind, and it's awesome. I could see people like being on it too long and kind of building relationships that might not be real, sort of like that, and maybe because almost like when I was growing up, like how World of Warcraft was, where people just get sucked in and then kind of neglect their life, neglect the family, all that kind of stuff. So I could definitely see that happening. No worries.
I had like a childhood kind of thing where I like got sucked into relationships in MapleStory, and it became more about like the random friends I had on the game than the actual game. I mean, it was kind of nice, but it can get toxic too.
Oh, for sure.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what dystopian means, and I asked my boyfriend on Discord, but he doesn't answer me.
Only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing.
I think the most dystopian thing about VRChat is people like getting way too immersed in it. Like, because I've seen so many couples in VR and they're like patting each other's heads, and they're like hugging. But the thing is like you're petting air, you're hugging nothing. But people think it's real and get defensive about it. And I think that if we're entering that stage of life, like if we are entering the phase of where we are so associated with the virtual world that we get defensive when people question us about hugging things that aren't there, then I think that that's the most dystopian thing, because it's like it doesn't exist. And then the worst thing about it is people actually making themselves believe that it's real and nothing else.
I'm good. I just had to get a drink of water. I'm super sick, so voice is all scratchy. Ooh, dystopian thing. You know, it's not something that's like particularly affects me per se, but I do know a lot of people who like use this game and like use these worlds to cope super hard, and usually like through drinking or like, yeah, it's drinking. I see a lot of people getting super drunk in VR chat all the time. And like, it's one thing if it's in like IRL, because there's more limits and like social factors kind of making you want to say like, you know, like stop at some point. But there's not really any of that in VR. So you have to limit it yourself. Yeah, I feel like if you're in VR a lot, you have to have like a fair bit of self-control, but a lot of people don't.
Probably the children being so prevalent. They're not out doing kid things, and they're here talking to adults. Or I guess it's more like they're making playgrounds for themselves in spaces where random adults are. And I think that's like the most like dystopic / concerning thing. VR can be like a very isolating thing. Not meaning you're like isolated from the outside world if you use VR, but like while you're using it, almost no one else knows what's going on inside of your headset. And I think parents often like give these headsets to their children not knowing, like they'll watch their kids like social media, their Instagram, allow them to have a Snapchat, their Snapchat, whatever it is. And they'll watch that, but they can't keep an eye on like the video games that they're playing right in front of their face and who they're talking to in there, because this is a free video game. The parents aren't buying this for them. It's just like, oh, let me just go in here and there's thousands of people that I can talk to, and you don't know who you're going to run into.
The biggest thing that I can say is virtual market. Virtual market is the VR chats and technically the world's largest virtual marketplace that you can go and buy items around the world. You see things from like airsoft guns from Tokyo Marui, vehicles from like Kawasaki, Honda, Chevy, Ford, traveling agencies for Japan, avatars, health items, beauty items, you name it, you could buy it there. Even though right now you would just click on it and it would send you to their website and then you purchase it through the website. But sooner or later, it's going to get to the point to where you can literally purchase the item directly through VR chat and it'll come to your front door. Every virtual market since 2019 has always had Disney Plus, ESPN, Hulu, Netflix, you name it. So you would see real life products show up in a virtual space. So basically, VR chat has the groundwork for Ready Player One. It's what the world's largest social platform for virtual reality, because you can do it in desktop, you could do it in VR. No one's going to go touch Rec Room because Rec Room is all for children and it's illegal to go and advertise to children. The age demographic for people on VR chat is usually between the ages of 18 and up. Exactly. Because there's a lot of, well, hang on, a lot of the world creators have Patreons. So all the company has to do is just walk up to the Patreon and say, hey, here's $500. I want a poster this size placed in somewhere in your world. And you know what? As a content creator that spent $5,000 on assets alone to make maps, that $500 is very enticing just to put a 2D image up on the billboard or something. So you have Flirtual. Well, hang on. There's actually two in VR chat. There's Flirtual and Never Met. They are the two. Exactly. Basically, they're the Tinders of VR chat. The Black Cat, and the movie worlds. The Great because Pug. They're number one.
They will be on all of the big worlds because that's where the most lonely people will be. You get them. Exactly. You get them in there. More people will flock to the site. There's more revenue for you with the premiums, and boom, you've got a moneymaker right there.
And the dating apps didn't start until pretty much late last year, early this year is when the dating apps started popping off, because obviously you're lonely. That is the biggest thing that a lot of people are fighting right now. Is loneliness in VR chat.
After everything that's happened with COVID, the regulations.
Yeah, people got lonely.
You get a dating app on VR, that's going to look a hell of a lot enticing.
Well, hang on. The biggest thing that I've noticed is that a lot of the quotes that the dating apps do, and it's always either you see both of them, Flirtual and Never Met. You see them both side by side in every map, everywhere. Yeah. The biggest thing is that they'll always, if you go exploring the worlds that do have them, they have like never be alone in a club again, or never watch a movie by yourself, stuff like that.
You're muted, by the way.
I've been talking for the last 10 minutes. I think it's and I'm guilty of this too, and this is going to be a very common anti-program here, is the fact that people do come in here to sit in front of a mirror. And I'm guilty of this, and you know this. I'm pulling myself onto the bus with this one. But it is the idea that it's a social game, but a lot of people are not social in it.
Oh, yeah.
I would say VRChat has gotten a lot worse since I joined. I joined in 2020, but I spent about 2,500 hours in it.
Yeah, back then, there'd be a lot less mirror dwelling. A lot more people actually getting on, going, hey, how was your day? Yada yada. The community was much more tight knit.
So I'm pretty new to VR. I promised myself, though, that before I ever got into it, I've been interested since like 2012. And I promised myself that before I got into it, I would never use it for like escapism. So I got super fit and and I worked really hard on my IRL body to get like comfortable with it, and did just like a ton of like mental health work. It's been super rewarding and like not dystopian at all. It just feels like, honestly, way better than any expectations I ever had. I had no idea how cool it would be. And as much as I wanted to get into it, I almost thought it was like a gimmick. But like the more I play it, the more I just feel at home in virtual reality.
Kind of the reason why I know this is nothing to do with the actual question, but story time with Irish. One of the reasons why I actually come in here and do this whole bartending bit, it's so that people see a face that they can come and talk to. Because like usually I'm looking like this, like a proper bartender. Usually be as friendly as I can.
It's never a boring day around you, Irish, to be fair.
That's a really hard question. There's not too many dark sides to this game, in my opinion. It really does bring people together across the world. We're connecting in such a way that we haven't really done before. And I just think that part alone makes this game pretty great. Try VR if you haven't, I guess. It's a pretty cool experience, and I think a lot of people overlook it because they don't know what point it has gotten to. Like, it's getting pretty immersive. VR is like, cool.
If I just say one thing to the world, it'd be that no matter what you're going through, no matter how hard, how sad, how depressing it may be, or how unbearable it may be for you to exist, just know that tough times can never last. Only tough people last. And I know that from a meme, but it's honestly true, because like you can survive through anything. Like humans are built for endurance. And if you are having such pain, then something good is bound to happen. That's just the laws of the universe, because you can make it through it.
That's the magic of hitting rock bottom. Because once you're down there, there's only one way out, and that is up. And you're gonna improve.
Have you heard the philosophy of yin and yang? Because it's like whenever something terrible happens, like something very bad, the laws of the universe make it so that something equally good has to happen. It's like a counterweight.
I mean, when world's greatest problems always came to light, people always found solutions. Either in any branch, you could look at every single situation in which a problem arises. There's always somebody or something that comes out with a solution. For example, I'd rather not give an example. I'd rather not get too deep in it. But when adversity comes, it's when humanity always brings out the most creative aspects of them and brings solutions to problems they thought were unsolvable. I think we went a little bit too deep for a video that pretty much talked about mirrors.
The deepest thing I haven't even talked this deep before. I think I've just gone too far. What's your channel name, by the way?
Humans of VR. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! 138K. Okay.
Kindness is contagious. When you are kind, you inspire others. Be the spark. Spreading kindness merchandise available now.